I wanted to congratulate you on a job well done. You are my #1 scout. It's just nice to know that everyone else also feels the same way. This has been a wild ride, and there's no place that I'd rather be than right by your side. I love you.
Son, wishing you the very best of life's blessings. The awards, the accolades are also very appreciated, but your character walks with you every day. Continue to be loving, caring, always helping others, and always bringing joy to our lives. May God always continue to bless you. We love you more than you can ever imagine, and we're so, so very proud of you. Thank you.
Congratulations, son. Job well done. Love you very much.
Lelo, I really love you and I feel really happy for you right now. Congratulations. I love you, Lelo.
Congratulations, Dad. You are an amazing person, and this is just a small award and all the things that you've done. I love you so much. I'm proud of you. Congrats.
Congrats, Johnny. I'm very proud of you, and I'm sorry that Kayla's also sorry that she can't be here, but I'm glad to be representing all of us on this journey.
John, we just want to say congratulations. It's an honor well deserved. We've missed you all these years when you were out on the road. We're always happy when you're home. Again, congratulations. We love you.
I love you, Papa. Love you, Papa.
You say congratulations?
Love you, Papa.
Dad, we are so excited to be here to honor you tonight. When I was thinking back about your career, I realized that I don't remember life before Sean Dunston. And so it is incredibly easy for me to take for granted how successful you've been. And in addition to being such an amazing scout, you've also been a great dad. You taught me 2 important things: to love my profession, which I do, and also you passed down the love of baseball, something which Tom and I are happy to pass down to our kids, Tucker and Scout. So tonight we raise a glass to you, and we are so proud of you, Dad.
We're very happy and proud for you, Gary. It's been an interesting 50 years. But something really special. We're always proud of you. But it's really nice when your colleagues recognize you too. So keep in mind, you're always #1 in our hearts, on our scorecards. Love you.
Gary, I just want to say congratulations. Really, really, really appreciate you welcoming me into the family as much as you have. And passing down the love of baseball to Tucker and Scout. I see the look in their eyes when they get to sit with you at games such as the Under Armour game, and just the love that they have for the game, I know is really instilled by you. So thank you for that, and thank you again for welcoming me into the family, and congratulations.
Hi. I just want to say a few things about Bill Schmidt, my husband. We are so extremely proud of you. We love you. We wish Matt was here to share in this special moment. Your loyalty, hardworking, has all paid off. I'm a little bit nervous, sorry, but here's the cinch. You are an amazing man, employee for the Colorado Rockies, dad, and husband, and we love you. We're extremely proud of you.
Dad, just want to say I love you. So proud of you. You're so hardworking. The amount of passion you bring into the game, into your work is very honorable. It's very. I just think it's amazing and incredible, and I'm so proud of you. And almost just meets you, and I'm happy you get this honor. Love it.
Hi, I'm Kate Barr, and I'm honored to be here tonight to see my dad accept his award for East Coast Scout of the Year. And I just want to say congratulations to all the other award winners tonight. I'm really proud to be here.
This is Buck Martinez, and I want to congratulate our honorees of the 2019 Scout of the Year Award. These 4 gentlemen have done a terrific job for their organization, and we old baseball guys, and this will be my 54th year in baseball, understand the value of scouting. The scouts are the ones that identify the players that put together the championship years. And once again, congratulations to the 2019 Scouts of the Year. Well done.
Welcome to the 36th anniversary of the Scout of the Year Award. I would like to thank all of you for being in attendance and making this event so successful year in and year out. Since the program's inception, we have always, with your excellent voting, of course, attempted to showcase a wonderful group of individuals that through their efforts make our national pastime the best it can possibly be. Tonight we have the pleasure of honoring 4 more outstanding Scouts. Before I turn the program over to our MC, I would like to share with you what this award means to the Scouts in the field. I received a note that was included with a ballot from one of the Scouts, and he said, "Seeing the look on my kids' eyes was priceless when they saw that their dad's name was on the ballot." So, with further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's MC. And he started his baseball career as a catcher, went on to manage the Toronto Blue Jays, and turned that great knowledge of baseball into his next career as a baseball television personality, and is currently the play-by-play announcer for the Toronto Blue Jays. In addition to all that, he just merely wrote 3 books on baseball. So we are pleased to welcome back Mr. Buck Martinez. Take it away, Buck. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Well, thank you very much for being here, and it's great to be here. I've just completed my 54th year in baseball. And as most of you know, the first contact we have as players is with the scout. A scout shows up at a Babe Ruth game, a scout shows up at a high school game, and all of a sudden there's a buzz. There's a pro scout in the ballpark. That's our first contact with baseball. None of us ever thought about necessarily being professional baseball players until we saw that scout at the ballpark. My first experience was 1965 in Sacramento, California. There was a bird dog named Bill Avila who worked for Eddie Bachman for the Phillies. He came out and he said, "I want you to fill out a scout card. We think you've got a chance to be a professional baseball player." So I filled out that scout card and I played at Elk Grove High School. Didn't get drafted after my senior year in high school. Went to Sacramento City College. Eddie Bachman became interested at that point because we had a real good team and there was a whole bunch of us that were good players. I got drafted in January of 1967. In the January phase of the draft, I played my freshman year in college, Sacramento City College. We won the NorCal championship. I had to sign before the state championship. Sacramento City was going to play Pasadena City College. They had a third baseman named Darrell Evans. Turned out to be a pretty good player too. But I had to sign before the state championship. That's the way the rules were set up at the time. So I had to choose between playing in the state championship or signing with the Philadelphia Phillies. But because Eddie Bachman had made a commitment to me, I wanted to sign with the Phillies. And it didn't hurt that a fellow named Larry Boa signed before me with Eddie Bachman. My American Legion teammate, John Vukovich, signed with the Philadelphia Phillies. Eddie Bachman had a grip on Northern California and signed a lot of players. I wanted to be a Philly because of Eddie Bachman. That's the impact you scouts have. When you go to the ballpark and you meet families and you meet players and all of a sudden you make an impact on them. Over the years, I've been blessed to be in great organizations, the Phillies, the Royals, the Brewers, and the Toronto Blue Jays. And when you think about all of the people, and I encourage you to look at the program and look at the past honorees that have received awards that these fine gentlemen are going to receive tonight. And it's a who's who of the scouting world. Al LaMacchia, Bobby Maddock, guys I had in Kansas City, Rosie Gilhouse and Tom Ferrick, tremendous scouts for years. Pat Gillick had a scouting background. Pat Gillick was in Houston when I was taken in the Rule 5 draft. in 1968. Pat Gillick was the GM of the Toronto Blue Jays when he acquired me. I was DFA'd in 1981 by the Brewers. And Pat Gillick remembered that link we had years ago in Houston. The scout fraternity is phenomenal. As I said, you are the first link that we have to professional baseball. And unfortunately, the numbers are dwindling. But I encourage you young scouts here tonight that might be starting out on your scouting career to have a beer with some of these older scouts in the room. Talk about their experiences. Find out what they did, how they learned. You're going to hear some great stories tonight from these four gentlemen about their scouting history. As Roberta said, I'm in broadcasting. I just finished up my 35th year of broadcasting. I work for the Toronto Blue Jays. Every day I go into spring training, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I walk out to the ballpark, and there's one guy sitting in the stands. And that guy is there every day in spring training. He's the first one there, and he's the last one to leave. It's Rick Williams with the Atlanta Braves now, great scout. But the scouts that are there every day, you never know what you might see at a ballpark. You never know what might be going on early in the game. I had the good fortune of working the World Series this year. Had a lot of visits with Mike Rizzo. And I said, Mike, what happened to your ball club at the point of 1931? How did you turn things around? Mike told me we had a rough road trip, got back to Washington, called in my manager, called in my coaches, and called in one of my senior advisors, who happened to be my minor league manager and later on my big league manager, Jack McKeon. And he asked Jack, what are we going to do? Jack says, let your managers manage, let your coaches coach, and get back to baseball. And Mike told me a great story. He went down to the clubhouse, he saw this blackboard had optional hitting, and he erased optional. And from that point on, they did a fundamental drill every day. They focused on playing baseball. Baseball is a unique game that you have to play baseball to get better at baseball. And that's what the Washington Nationals did. They had 5 former general managers in their organization, 5 former major league managers in their organization, and they got back to playing baseball. Baseball isn't a science. Baseball is an art. And you scouts have been able to identify the players that could execute that art on the field for years and years. I applaud you all in this room, and I applaud our honorees this season. Let's give them a big hand. Before we go any further, I'm going to introduce you to the board of directors that are responsible for this dinner, putting this together. Grady Fuson, he's been here for a long time scout, great executive. Gary Hughes, everybody knows Gary, and if you haven't had a chance to visit with him, slide up to Gary and get a few stories. Dan Jennings, he's also a great member of the board, longtime member. Linda Pereira, long time involved. Linda and I go back to the San Jose Royals early on when the Kansas City Royals were there in San Jose. And Gene Watson, another terrific board member. One of the board members that couldn't be here tonight, Roland Heeman, of course, we should acknowledge him, and a great baseball man with an illustrious career for a long time. On Sunday, as so often is the case at these winter meetings, Gary Hughes was holding court in the lobby. And he came over and he announced to the small group that Don Priest had passed away on Saturday night. You talk about a first interaction with baseball. In 1953, a long time ago, Don Priest came to my hometown, Redding, California, and he put on a baseball clinic. at Tiger Field, a D-League ballpark across the street from my house. And for some reason, I was in the front of that picture in a white T-shirt listening to Don Priest, who was a scout, talking about baseball. And that's how it started, my love for baseball. I spent my last 6 years playing with the Toronto Blue Jays. I asked Pat Gillick one time, Pat, how did you know John Olerud could go from college at Washington State to playing in the big leagues? He said, I had a couple of pretty good scouts, Moose Johnson and Don Welke. And we had decided we were going to draft John Olerud, and before we signed him, I wanted those guys to follow him. They followed him for 12 games. Pat's instructions were, you have breakfast, you have lunch, you have dinner with the Olerud family. I want to know everything about him. And I want you to see every game that he plays. And I said, well, what was the final determination that John Olerud could go right to the big leagues? He said, we saw John Olerud play 12 games. He swung at 54 pitches and didn't miss one. He said, we had a pretty good idea he could hit. But that's the value of scouting. Buck Showalter told me when the Yankees were prepared to sign Derek Jeter, they were going to go down and meet with Jeter and his family. Some of the other baseball people went over and talked to Derek, while Buck Showalter went to talk to Derek's mom and dad and his sister. And after a half an hour of visiting with Derek's mom, dad, and his sister, he walked by Derek and says, Derek, I don't need to talk to you. I found out everything I need to know about you from your family. And obviously, Derek turned out to be a pretty good ball player. John Wilson of the Minnesota Twins told me a great story. He had heard about this great outfielder playing in Orlando. The big buzz was this young outfielder. He was pretty good. He said, I knew he was a pretty good player, but I wanted to see what separated that player from the rest of the high school players in Orlando. So I got to the ballpark. He was going to play on the road that day. And I got to the ballpark before their bus arrived. And I got right there where that bus was going to stop. And the first guy off the bus was in his uniform, had his spikes on, had his equipment bag, went right to the left field foul line and started running sprints. Right then, John Wilson knew that that was going to be a major league player. That high school player was Johnny Damon. And Johnny Damon turned out to be a longtime big league player. Those are the types of things that you as scouts recognize early on. Everybody can see numbers, everybody can see average, everybody can see stats, everybody can read a radar gun. But not everybody can find out what the character is all about. And that's what you scouts do so well. I applaud you for those efforts. I recommend that the young scouts in the room continue to learn from these older gentlemen. We're losing more and more good scouts every year. Their knowledge is invaluable. They will help you avoid making mistakes down the road. With that, I'm going to begin the introduction, and we're going to hear from the guys we're here to listen to. To come up and introduce our East Coast Scout of the Year, John Barr.
Thank you, Buck. Very honored to be here this evening to present the 2019 East Coast Scout of the Year Award to my colleague and my friend, John Barr. John, of course, has had an incredibly accomplished and distinguished scouting career. Looking forward to 2020, which is going to be John's 36th season in baseball and 13th with the Giants. Of course, we all know about the terrific run that John and his staff have had in San Francisco, winning 3 World Series. John, of course, also has another World Series ring from his time with the Mets. One amazing stat that, as a front office person, I really admire is the fact that in the 2014 World Series, 7 of the 13 position players on the Giants roster were drafted by John and his staff, which I think for anybody in a front office is what you hope that you can get from your scouting department, and that's really an incredible achievement. You know, John, of course, prior to his 12 seasons with the Giants, was with the Dodgers. A very fruitful run there that included being part of drafting the likes of Russell Martin, Edwin Jackson, and Jonathan Broxton. And you know, one of my first interactions with John in the office in San Francisco, he came by and said, you know, I can relate to this move that, you know, you coming from the Dodgers and joining the Giants. You know, I did the same thing many years ago. And I said, yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting transition to be moving between teams in this rivalry. And I shared with John that I'd gotten 3 missed calls from an unidentified number and didn't know who was continuing to call me. And the 4th time, I got a call from this number, and I got a message, and it was Tommy Lasorda. And Tommy just said, hey, Farhan, it's Tommy. Give me a call back. And I shared this with John. I said, you know, Dodgers people have been so great reaching out and wishing me luck. And I just got a bunch of calls from Tommy. He finally left a message for me. And John said, oh no. I have to tell you that when I left the Dodgers for the Giants, I got a real earful from Tommy that I haven't forgotten to this day. So I have to thank you, John, for never making me so scared to return a call in my life. Of course, even prior to his time, his 10 years with the Dodgers, John worked for the Mets, the Orioles, the Padres, and the Twins. During his time with the Orioles, of course, drafted Mike Mussina, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame last year. Yet another great accomplishment in John's career, adding a Hall of Famer to his resume. And, you know, beyond all the accomplishments, I just want to say on a personal note, this has been, at times, a very difficult year for our organization, both from a professional standpoint and, more importantly, from a personal standpoint. And your leadership, support, and friendship for the entire scouting staff and the entire organization is something I can't express enough appreciation for, and I think I speak for the whole organization when I say that. So thank you so much for that, John. Again, I want to congratulate you for this well-earned award. I want to welcome John's wonderful wife, Mary Ann, and daughter, Kate, who are here for this event also. And again, on behalf of the entire organization, we're so proud of you, John, and congratulations.
Farhan, thank you very much for the kind words. It's really very nice, and it's great to hear. I don't think we ever get a chance to hear enough of them, and but it really is greatly appreciated. You know, Tommy just called me Benedict Arnold for the rest of my life after I left the Dodgers, is what he did. But so I'm glad you didn't answer that phone call. Roberta, I just want to thank you and the rest of the committee here and all the different people that I've known for a lot of years and say thank you very much for being part of this. And also my fellow recipients. Thank you. It's great to be able to be honored with you guys here. I've respected you and I've known you for a lot of years. And it's great to be honored with you all. I know Gary Nichols and I go way back. I got a chance to see him originally in 1985. We were at a tournament down in Mississippi State. It was an NCAA tournament, and Will Clark was in it. Palmyra was in it, and also Michigan was in it with Barry Larkin. It was probably one of the best tournaments that I had ever attended. And being a rookie scout, in between games, they said, could you please clear the field, clear the stands so we can end up letting the next group come in? Well, all the rest of the scouts stayed there. I, like a rookie, walked outside, realizing that there was a line that went from home plate all the way around right field and into center field to get back in. Well, being a first-year scout, I'm thinking, holy cow, I'm going to get fired. So I had 2 good hips then, so I just walked around the third base side, found a 10-foot fence, and hopped over it to get myself into the ball game. but that's when I first gotten a chance to meet Gary. I do want to thank right away. I want to thank my wife, Marianne, and all my children, Katie and all. We've been married 36 years, and she's been involved in this baseball lifestyle for 35. There's times that I'm glad that she didn't leave me, because she could have changed the locks and I wouldn't have known, because I hadn't been around much. But, you know, we're in the game because we love the game of baseball. Our wives and our family are in the game because they love us, and I thank God for that. So thank you very much. You know, it's always funny. You can fool the kids a while. You tell them that you're going to go on vacation in the summertime, and all it is really a scouting trip that you tell them to all get in the back of the van. So you throw 4 kids into the back of an Astro van, and you proceed to drive all the way from Florida up to Cape Cod, stopping along the way, seeing games, and you say to them, that's our vacation. But they put up with it, and thank God they love me for it. Joe McIlvaine was a major influence in my life, not only professionally, but also personally. He's a good friend, and he provided me with my first job in baseball with the Mets. He gave me an opportunity for what I had dreamed about, and that was to be with a group of people, to put together a team, to end up winning a world championship. That idea of being able to compete at the highest level. And Joe was such a great mentor for that. And he always stayed positive and always talked, was a teacher, and took his time to help me and help the way I developed. And he also exposed me to guys like Frank Cashin, Harry Minor, the Minor family, Buddy Kerr, a number of scouts within the Mets organization that became a big part of my life. Also, he sent me up to the Cape Cod for the first time, and that was my first instance up there, chance to go up there. And at the time, everybody would stay at the Rainbow Lodge in Hyannis. There wasn't Marriott's, there wasn't Hilton's, and we weren't worried about points. But all the scouts would stay in the same place. And they took over the Coke machine, and they would put all their beers in the Coke machine. And at night, as you had mentioned, we would come home after games, and we would sit around and have beers, and I would listen to the stories that the scouts were telling. And actually, they were teaching is what they were doing. When we would go to the ballpark, they'd say, hey, kid, why don't you go get the lineups for us? Go on over and go get them in the dugout. And I'd run on over, get them, and I'd start running down the list of numbers and then names and what positions they were playing. And then one day, and I want to say it was Lenny Murillo, said to me, he goes, you know, I want you to know we like you. We're not picking on you. We're actually teaching you. And I said, well, thank you. He goes, when you go in that dugout, introduce yourself to the coach. Maybe even meet one of the players, shake their hands, look at them. And that's going to help you someday. Get a chance to know their personality. And, you know, that's something that I've kept doing for the rest of my life. I always enjoyed that. And hopefully it's actually paid some dividends. Working with Terry Ryan, he had hired me as a East Coast supervisor. And our draft room consisted of 4 people. It was Terry, myself, who was overseeing the East, Larry Corrigan in the West, and Bill Smith was there taking our notes and being involved with the everyday, just keeping us online. We would have these marathon meetings until late at night. And the only reason why we would end them is because Larry would fall asleep on the floor and he would start snoring. And I'd look at Terry and go, Terry, can we please go home now? And I also got a chance to meet Mike Radcliffe there. And Mike is one of my best friends, one of the smartest people I've ever been around in the game of baseball, and someone that I really care dearly about. I used to ask Mike, I used to say, Mike, did I see that guy? And he'd say, yeah, you saw him at so-and-so. And then I started saying, Mike, did I like him? And it had been mentioned here, Roland Heeman. I had a chance to work with Roland. He provided me with the first scouting director job that I happened to have. And the first year that we were there, we had the #1 pick of the country. And we selected Ben McDonald. Scott Boras was his agent, and it was one of the worst summers I had had. During that period of time, Ben went up to the Cape, and we got a chance to follow him around. But it was a difficult summer for sure. The second year, we selected Mike Mussina with the 20th pick, and we got him signed in one day. Go figure. But Ed Sprague Sr. did a terrific job with Mike Mussina, knowing his makeup, knowing everything about him, despite the fact that we had heard that he might be a little selfish and stuff like that. Mike Mussina was, of course, a Hall of Famer. And to be able to attend that Hall of Fame induction this year was one of my highlights of my career, to be able to watch a guy that was part of and being able to see him go in. You know, I've had a lot of opportunities to work with an awful lot of people around here. I look around this room and I see so many people that I know and I've worked with and have helped me out throughout my career, that I've shared laughs with, shared meals with. I mean, it's touching. Some of you guys I look at and I realize that I helped you get into the game for the first time. And I want to thank you for looking after me at different times during working with you and all. And Tommy Allison's down here, and I know Joe Delicari's out there somewhere, and Paulie Fryer. Paul probably didn't make it. But I want to say thank you very much, but I also want to apologize for getting you into this game, because it is all life-consuming. Scouting is not a business. It's a life. It's just a way of living. And I'm just glad that I've been able to be around all of you to be part of this. Also, I must say that 12 years ago, Brian Sabian came to me and asked permission from the Dodgers to bring me on over. And he brought me into the Giants family. It was something that became the highlight of my career and all the work. The people I got a chance to work with, from John Castleberry, Eddie Creech, Doug Mapson, and this whole group right here who helped me throughout everything in there. It just was very rewarding. It was fulfilling to see how an organization working together, from ownership to upper management, to the players, to the coaches, to the people throughout the stadium, to the city, all joined as one and celebrated and having 3 World Series championships. It's pretty exciting when you get a chance to fulfill your dream, to compete against the best, as all of you are, and finish on top at that last game of the season. It was really exciting to watch Joe Panik turn that double play in Game 7 of the 2014 season, and know that that double play started when Johnny DiCarlo started watching him in high school and started looking at him and started finding out about his makeup, and then following him on through to that flip to Crawford, to over to Belt, and knowing that all of our guys were part of that. That was truly an amazing time for me, and has been one of the highlights of my career. This past summer, I had a situation where I actually got a chance. I was up at the Cape, and I thought I might pass something down to somebody. So I was sitting there, and I got my lawn chair now, just like the other guys, just like the old scouts always did. And I had my lawn chair behind home plate, and I said to the guy, new scout that was next to me, I introduced myself to him. I said, hey, why don't you run on in and go get the lineups for us? I figured, why not? He proceeded to get out his phone, pull it up on Twitter, and airdrop it right onto my phone. Yeah, I just shook my head and I said, well, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. You know, despite all the differences, we're really pretty much the same. We're all competing. There's changes that are made all throughout, but we're all still competing to be the best and be the last man standing, because that's what it's all about. We all still love the game that we're in, and we still all love the family that we're in, and that's these people right here, because we are a family. We look after each other. We celebrate when good times are happening, and we support each other during the tough times. We're all out there looking for difference makers, trying to find someone for our team that will make a difference. Well, I have to tell you, throughout my life, I've been looking for a difference maker every single day. But that difference maker has been you guys. You guys have made the difference in my life, for my family's life. And that, I want to thank you very much for. Thanks.
And with that, now I will call upon Bill Gasparino to present the Midwest Award to Gary Nichols.
Good evening, everyone. Extremely honored and proud to represent Los Angeles Dodgers tonight and introduce Gary Nichols as the Midwest Scout of the Year. Gary's had, as many of you know, Gary's had a long, distinguished career, 48 years. A long list of many good players, highlighted by Sean Dunston, Jason Worth, and many others I hope Gary shares tonight with you. You know, one of the things more recently, there's been many jobs. I think Gary's almost done every job in the amateur scouting department, from admin assistant to area scout to regional cross-checker, scouting director, pro scouting director, and now special assistant for us. Personally, I can't express enough gratitude to the leadership he provides us on a daily basis. We're extremely proud to have him involved in our department. The stories are countless on how he mentors our young scouts and almost anyone he touches. One thing I did want to share with you guys, and be pretty brief here, but I think as these words are announced, you always get several texts from several different people, and I wanted to share a couple with you that I've previously worked with Gary that I thought kind of say anything better than I can say. And I'll be short here, but one of them said, "What a great human." I got another text that said, "Nicest guy in the game." And the last one was, "The best boss I ever had." And so, as many of these awards here tonight are about your scouting ability, I think especially when it comes to Gary's case, it's about the quality of human being he is and the lives he touches every day. And I know we're extremely proud and honored to have him a part of our organization. So thank you, Gary, and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I've worked 48 years in the game. I've worked under some real good general managers. Guy that Buck would remember, Paul Owens, who was a scout in Bakersfield originally, and became a fireman scouting director in Philadelphia, and then general manager. The first guy that hired me first in 1972 was Dallas Green. I was the office guy before there were computers or cell phones or any of that stuff. And it usually took about 2.5 weeks for a report to come in from the scout to the office, and then I would have to turn it around and get it out to the cross-checkers who were going around the country trying to see players. It's changed quite a bit since then with the computers. We take everything for granted now, but it was quite an ordeal just to run a scouting staff and get the information to everybody. In '72 with the Phillies, we had the worst record in baseball. Steve Carlton won 27 games. We won 59. I'm looking at Bob Boone out here. I was able to see in the 70s what a good scouting staff can do for an organization. We got better each year as we went along, and we had great scouts. He mentioned Eddie Bachman. Tony Lucadella was another one. George Bradley, some of you guys remember, who mentored a lot of scouts. We had a good staff, and we continued to get better to the point where Dallas Green was the manager in 1980, and we won the World Series. And that's the one ring I've gotten in my 48 years. So you guys have got several. I appreciate them. I got to work for Roland Heeman in Baltimore. I followed John Barr as scouting director there. Roland never said he was a scout, but boy, he supported the scouts and did everything he could to help us to do our job. I had Roland through '95, and then I got to work for Pat Gillick in Baltimore. And if any of you have worked for Pat Gillick, you know when I shake my head, what an honor it was to work for him. He was a Scouts man through and through, and he put a lot of emphasis on what people thought. He wanted to know. He listened to you the whole way through, and if you didn't speak up, he was asking you why you hadn't spoken up. It was a pleasure to work for him. I worked for Kevin Towers in San Diego, was the pro director there for 4 years, and then I went to the Dodgers and worked again with John Barr as the Midwest supervisor. The guy that hired me was Logan White, who John originally hired in Baltimore, and who I hired back from the Padres in 1995. The other thing I was able to do in Baltimore, I was able to hire John Green. So his dad hired me. I'm looking at Rick Wilson. He remembers this. And I gave John his first job as an evaluator when he came off the field. And that was something I was really pleased to be able to do. I tell people 48 years, I've never missed a paycheck. Now, the people out in the real world, they look at me and go, yeah, so what? When I tell that to baseball people, they go, really? I'd like to thank my wife, Margie. We were married 50 years on June 13th last year, and she's supported me the whole... It's not an easy life. Sometimes the games get in the way of family things, and you have to adjust. But I thank her for her support and love over the 50 years. Sitting next to her's our daughter, Laura. She lives 1 block from Wrigley Field. Her and her husband, Tom, have 2 full season tickets to the Cubs. So you Cub guys there, you're working for them. So they hear the national anthem and they walk over and they're there in their seat for the first pitch. And we have 2 grandkids, 4 years old. They were here earlier, but they're gone now. Tucker's 4 years old. And this winter, Laura sent me on the phone a picture of Tucker looking out their window. And he was like a kid on Christmas morning because the Cubs truck had arrived back from spring training. And he was real excited. We have a granddaughter who's 2. Her name is Scarlett, but she's called Scout. So we have 2 Scouts now in the family, granddad and granddaughter. This has been a real pleasure for me. I mean, I've done this for so long. I look around the room and see guys, and everybody I see, I think about an interaction or something that happened or a story. And I thank everybody for coming up and congratulating me. Mike Daughtry's nodding his head there. And one guy I always like to mention, when I see Bob Boone, Andy Semenek. Andy converted Bob from third base to catching in the instructional league. And Andy had played for the Phillies, but also scouted. And I remember the job he did in converting Bob Boone, who, when Bob retired, I think you'd caught the most games ever in big league baseball, right? Pudge finally went by you, but anyway, thank you to everybody. It's been a pleasure, and Roberta, this is a great event here, and I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Now I'd like to introduce Jeff Bridich of the Colorado Rockies, who will present the Award for the West Coast Scout of the Year. Jeff?
Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to be here yet again this year. Doing a repeat. You remember DeMont from last year. This is definitely a more honorable thing to be here than last year. We were slightly embarrassed to have to honor DeMont, and we learned that it was basically a token thing. You're welcome. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here to introduce Bill. And congrats to John and Gary and Johnny for your deserving awards. It's fair to say that Bill endeavored to live a life in baseball pretty much from the get-go. Born in Fullerton, Cal, he attended Magnolia High in Anaheim, and then he earned his undergraduate degree at Long Beach State before getting his master's degree at Azusa Pacific. And if you have designs on a baseball life, getting your start in Southern California is certainly not a bad way to go. It was coaching and not scouting that kickstarted Bill's career in the game. In the early to mid-'80s, he had stints as both a high school head coach and a college assistant coach. Places like Savannah High School, Laura High School, Magnolia, Santa Ana JC, Arizona State, and eventually Fairbanks, Alaska, up in the Alaskan Summer League. And if you know Bill well, then you're likely aware of his healthy respect for coaches, specifically college coaches. From legends like Scalinos and Weinstein, Sneddon, Kincaid, Horton, and Snow, to current skippers like Savage, Corbin, O'Sullivan, and Bakich. Bill has always shown a genuine interest in how such men run their program and how they effort to get the most out of their young student athletes. In many ways, from my experience with Bill, there are elements and parts of scouting that Bill sees through a coach's eyes. With an eye toward professional baseball, he began to piece together experience with different organizations. He initially worked as a part-time scout with both the Expos and Reds in the early to mid-'80s. From '86 to '88, he worked for the Bureau, primarily covering the LA area. His first big break with the Major League organization came at the end of '88 when he was hired by the Yankees as an area scout, focusing mostly on Southern California, Arizona, and Vegas. It was there with the Yankees that he first encountered Bill Livesey, who was a mentor to him that I'm sure he's going to mention here in a second. From '95 to '99, Bill was a national cross-checker for the Indians, and when Dan O'Dowd left the Indians to become the Rockies GM, after the '99 season, Bill was his choice as the team's new scouting director. Over the years, he's received a number of deserving promotions, up to senior director of amateur scouting in '04 and eventually to VP of amateur scouting in 2007. Along the way, this quiet California guy somehow met his match in a smart and spirited New York gal. Over 26 years of marriage, while Bill has been nothing short of a road warrior, Linda has, among many other things, managed her own successful career while raising two quality young men in Andrew and Matt. So 20 seasons as a Colorado Rocky for Bill means that 2 decades of amateur drafts for him are in the books. And everyone in this room, I think, can appreciate that long-term success in this business requires a little good fortune now and again. However, you don't luck your way into an organization putting its trust and faith in you for 20 consecutive years. There must be a work ethic, and even more than this work ethic, there must be a love of the work itself. There must be an ability to learn and adjust and to think the game as the game changes. And of course, in Bill's specific line of work, there must be an ability to make continuously good judgments about young men on behalf of an organization that's putting its future talent pool in your hands. And to that end, this is just a small sampling for Bill dating back to 2000. Garrett Atkins, Clint Barmas, Brad Hopp, Jeff Francis, Ryan Spilborghs, Ian Stewart, Seth Smith, Chris Iannetta, Dexter Fowler, Troy Tulowitzki, Will Harris, Mike McHenry, Nolan Arenado, Chad Bettis, Corey Dickerson, Tyler Anderson, Trevor Story, David Dahl, Scott Oberg, John Gray, Ryan McMahon, Kyle Freeland, and I could go on and on and on. One of the things that I've come to appreciate most about Bill is that he's gotten better over time. His personal progression towards mastery of his job is not just measured in draft picks or big leaguers. It is seen in the weird and wonderful relationship between he and Demont. It is seen in the development and the promotion of numerous area scouts in our organization over the years. And it is seen in his continual efforts to create the element of a cohesive scouting department and team in an industry that makes it nearly impossible to do so. As I have personally made the rounds over the past 5 or 6 years, more than a few scouts have made nearly the exact same comment to me. It's uncanny. It's the type of comment that shows both appreciation for a body of work and a well-earned reputation in the game. And it goes something like this. If I am somewhere, this is a scout talking to me, if I'm somewhere, and in particular, if I'm somewhere to see a young hitter, and I see Bill Schmidt in the house, I know that I'm in the right place at the right time. And tonight is certainly the right place and right time to honor Bill with this award. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Schmidt.
Hey, John, you want your glasses? Those are mine. Oh, they're yours. All right. Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind comments. And am I doing my contract with you or Dick? Because it's up. Roberta, thank you very much. The last 3 days have been great. Most of you don't know, I go back with Roberta when I first started scouting or coaching. Back then, Major League Baseball did highlights for the All-Star game and the World Series every year in the 16-millimeter thing. And Scott Pickler, who I was working for, hey, go over to the stadium and get the film so we can show it to the class, or we'll show it to our team. And I met her, I told you, not a long time ago, but it was a long time ago, Roberta. So we've had a long relationship, and I thank you very much. I have some people here that are very important to me. Jeff mentioned my wife. We just had our anniversary last week. On paper, it says 16, but like most of you guys in this room, I've been gone for half of it, so I always tell everyone it's 13 years that we've been married. The truth of the matter is, she had a career and she raised 2 boys while I was gone. I knew I was in trouble when she'd tell me, I need a wife. It was time to come home. Linda, I love you and I appreciate everything you've done. I have one of my sons here, Andrew, who works for the Angels. Our other son's taking his finals at Michigan that he needs to pass, so he didn't make the trip out. I also have my brother, Tim, who's much younger and retired already. So it's a hell of a gig, and now he works for MLB and security. You know, I look at my career, and Jeff talked how I started out coaching, but I always thought my career was one of learning, constant learning. And I had the fortunate ability to start in Southern California where there was some great veteran scouts. Joe Stevenson, Roger Youngward, Jerry Gardner, Harry Minor, Bob Harrison, that took time to teach a young guy. Angel Figueroa. I mentioned Fig because he taught me how to do my expenses. He had that room at the Fifth Avenue Inn, what was it, 119, 121, underneath the staircase. You walked by, the door was always open, and the light was dim, and he'd say, come on in, kid. Had all his cowboy boots lined up. Same point of my career, there was a bunch of young guys starting out. Or had started their career, and Eddie Bain, Rick Ingalls, Vern Falwell, Kenny Compton, R.J. Harrison, Kip Fagg, Logan White, Steve Flores, Bobby Minor. I like to think I was blessed where I was learning from not only the veteran guys, but the young guys. You know, you look at the program, you look at the list. When Roberta called me and said, you won, I kind of pulled back. I was in the office that day. I pulled out last year's, and you look at the list of names in there, you know, you start reflecting on the people you met, the friendships, the places his job's taken you. I consider myself very lucky, and I'm very humbled to be considered with the list of names in there. You know, there's some people that I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for them. They kind of started it out for me. The first one would probably be Scott Pickler. He was my first high school coach. He's a longtime high school JC coach at Cypress JC. He's been in the Cape for over 20 years, just went in the Hall of Fame. I played on his very first team when he came out of college. And I can still remember him calling me and saying, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to school. I'm going to be a business major." He goes, "Come on, I want you to coach." And I fell in love with it. That was over 40-some years ago. I consider myself very lucky to have a friend to this day of Scott Pickler. Next guy was Buddy Pritchard. I don't know what it was. Buddy must have thought I wasn't a very good coach. He was a longtime Bureau Scout. Buddy always kept saying, "You need to go into scouting." And he kept pushing me, and finally, "All right, buddy." He got me a part-time job with Jack Papke, where I got to meet Bobby Fontaine, Cliff Ditto. And then he introduced me to a guy named Larry Barton Jr. Larry asked me to run his scout teams. And that was probably where I really got my first foundation of scouting, from Larry. You know, he'd bring out the minor league guys, and we'd play the colleges on the weekends. I had an Eric Davis, Darryl Strawberry, Chris Brown, Freddie Tolliver. It was a great way to learn how to start scouting. Dick Cole, who was a longtime scout. Wendy was a dear friend of mine who loved to share his wisdom, and he's sorely missed. Damon Oppenheimer, who I consider my best friend. You know, that's the one thing when your best friend's on somebody else's team and you got to compete against him daily, but he's somebody that, you know, I can confide in, I can bounce things off of. But I know I got to try to beat him every day, especially when he's got about $324 million. You know, if you would have gave the guy another million, you could have saved cash $320. But I thank you for your friendship. Don Lindbergh. Lindy was with at the Yankees, a longtime scout. Lindy was so wise. So many of the lessons Lindy taught me still hold true to today. I still look at the Farmer's Almanac every year to look at the weather. I wish I knew where the Old Indian was, Gary, so I could find out what the weather is going to be. But Lindy was a very wise man, and he's sorely missed. As Jeff said, my mentor was Bill Livesey. I think when I finally went to the Yankees, Brian Sabian hired me. Bill was a national guy, and at the time, I can't say enough about what Bill meant to my career, my life, the knowledge he shared. Trust me, I got yelled at a lot, but he means the world to me. Jack Gillis. Jack was, I got the chance to coach, also scout with Jack, but to coach with Jack. Jack's favorite thing after a game in the New York Penn League was, when we were on the road, it was tell Dave Littlefield's, the little dandy little trainer, Littlefield, Mark Littlefield, have 2 large pizzas, have 50 beers, and we'll talk about the game. And we did that every night on the road. Jay Robertson. Jay gave me my first chance to cross-check and brought me to the Indians, and I'm forever indebted to him. Because it was with the Indians where I met Dan O'Dowd. We would end up working together for 19 years. Dan brought me to the Rockies. That was after he told me, "Hey, we're going to go to Milwaukee." Dan, I don't want to move to Milwaukee. "Oh, it'll be all right. You'll be all right. You can live in Chicago and commute." Okay. I'm trying to talk Linda into this. He didn't get the Brewers job, and he goes, Milwaukee would have been a good place to live. We were going to go to Baltimore one time. That didn't go real well after he had his interview with the owner. And finally, we settled. He goes, "What about Colorado?" I said, "I'll do Colorado." I'm fortunate to be there now for over 20-plus years. Thing about Dan, he didn't only help me in baseball, but he helped me grow as a person. So, Dan, I thank you. As I said, I'm blessed to be with the same club for 20-plus years. My objective along the way, I wanted to run both departments. Dan said no. I said, well, then I want to be like Freddie McAllister, Paul Snyder, the guys that done this job for 20, 25 years, Ben Wade, guys I really respected. I know I'm blessed to be starting my 21st year. I've had a good group of scouts, and I thank you guys, the Rocky organization, the guys here, the guys that helped me along the way. I have had 4 special guys to run the office, so I never had to worry about things. Coley Brannion, Zach Wilson, now I have Mark Gustafson and Shirley Montford. I thank you guys for all you've done. I've had 3 special guys with me the whole time: Danny Montgomery, Damon Iannelli, Mike Erickson. I appreciate all your time and efforts. You know, the thing is, it's like Danny and Jeff kind of alluded to. Me and Danny are close. As Danny says, we speak more than I speak to my wife. Danny, I can't tell you how much your loyalty and friendship means to me. I love you, and thank you very much.
In 1981, I was the 4th-string catcher on the Milwaukee Brewers. We had a guy named Ted Simmons who just went into the Hall of Fame a couple of days ago, Charlie Moore, Ned Yost, and I was the 4th-string catcher. I was with the team for a month, did not play an inning, and did not have an at-bat. And I was finally designated for assignment. And I went to Toronto, and I thought I'd be in Toronto for the end of my career, 1 year maybe, and I'd be out. But at that point, I was reunited with Pat Gillick. 1982, Bobby Cox came there. And I noticed that there was a wealth of Latin players with the Blue Jays. And I started to ask, where did all these guys come from? And that's when I heard the name Epi Guerrero. And Epi Guerrero was a terrific scout with the Blue Jays that was responsible for so many of the great players that came to the big leagues with the Blue Jays. Tony Fernandez, Alfredo Griffin, and all these great players that ended up playing for the Blue Jays over the years. And I mention that because of our next award winner. As the International Scout of the Year, I'll call upon Mike Rizzo, the GM of the world champion Washington Nationals, to introduce our next honoree.
Don't leave. Johnny D's talking in a minute, so you might want to hear this. First of all, it's a great honor and privilege for me to be here. I've always loved this event. One of my favorite things about the winter meetings every year. The scouting world is near and dear to my heart. I was a 13-year area scout. I was a regional cross-checker, a national cross-checker, scouting director. I've got about 23 or 4 years in the scouting profession before I went into the front office. It's the most difficult and least appreciated job in baseball. The most difficult, the hardest, and the most time away from your families. So if there's any owners in the room, wake up. We need them. This award, it's been a special year for us here in Washington. It was a magical year. We started off slowly, as you all know, and came on really strong. Beat a bunch of good teams to finally win a World Series and a World Championship for Washington D.C. This is going to be short, so we'll get Johnny up here in a minute. But it would not have happened without our Latin American operations, with our scouts, our player development, and most importantly, Johnny DePuglia. He not only had 7 players on our 40-man roster, he had 6 of them on the playoff roster. He had our cleanup hitter at 20 years old, our Gold Glove center fielder at 21 years old. He's got a plethora of prospects in his system. He's done a terrific job for us. Most importantly, he's a great friend, a loyal employee, and one of the best at his job. International Scout of the Year, Johnny DePuglia.
Here we go, fellas. I've been part of a lot of good teams in my career. but the best team I've ever been around is my family. I want them all to stand up. Stand up, please. I bet you that I've got more family members here than anybody in the history of this award. Everybody give them a round of applause. I love you guys. I love all you guys. I'm a scout, man. I love every one of you guys. There's all these machines out here now, Blast, Rapsodo. I tell you what, everybody got that Rapsodo. But you know what the Washington Nationals have? Juan Soto. I'd like to give a lot of accolades to the guy that got me started in this industry. Who the hell was here so short? Who got me started? Marty Meyer. I know why Marty hired me, because I was working at a golf course and he wanted to give free golf, but he gave me a part-time job. I was making $100 a month in 1990. Got a raise in 1992 to $200. In 1993, I was able to become full-time because Marty called me. He goes, I got some good news and I got some bad news. He goes, give me the bad news first. He goes, Jim Pam Lane got thrown in jail because he didn't pay his taxes. And Marty goes, the good news is you're the full-time scout now. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Orange County Jail. Jim Pam Lane. I know you were the one that turned me in to get that full-time job. And he's passed away since, but he congratulated me and he wished me luck. I've had a lot of mentors with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Walt Jocketty. Walt Jocketty, he put up with me. I don't know why he didn't fire me when he first got there, because I was always arguing with everybody over there. Freddie McAllister passed away. George Kissel, Jose Oquendo, Mike Roberts, Roger Smith. I can go on and on. What an organization to learn from to start your career. But Marty, I really appreciate what you did. I was living in a trailer in the hood when he hired me. He got me out of there, and I took opportunity and I ran with it. From there, I went to the San Francisco Giants. I ran their Latin operations there. I took over for Louis Rosa. I don't know if you guys know what happened over there. But I had death threats in the Dominican Republic when I was there. I had people calling me things that weren't very nice. We decided to do an open tryout in the Dominican, and we only had 2 players. That's impossible. But I fought, stayed there 2 years. Brian Sabian was my general manager, another Hall of Fame general manager. Unfortunately, after my 2-year tenure, he wanted to offer me a 1-year deal with no money. I didn't sign it, and I moved on and became a free agent. From there, I went to the Boston Red Sox. What a change. What an organization. I mean, there's so many general managers that work there that Ben Sherrington was like my assistant there, and he's a general manager. Theo Epstein, Dan Duquette, Brian O'Halloran, Raquel Ferreira. I see Jason McLeod back there. Eddie Romero, who I'm so proud of Eddie Romero. Eddie Romero used to run with me like a little kid. I used to teach him all the legal stuff over there so he can operate down there. But you guys don't understand, man. Scouting Latin America is definitely not like the draft. It's definitely not like draft. I got a story where we went to go see this kid named Michael Navarro who got to the big leagues. We take this dirt road. We're going down this dirt road, and I go, where the hell is this guy taking me? We get to this river, and I go, you don't have a 4-wheel drive. We can't get through. He whistles. A donkey comes across the river. We get on top of the donkey, go across the river, climb the hill, and there's a baseball field there. And I found a big leaguer there. From there, I went to my favorite team, the Washington Nationals. And I want to give accolades to Casey McKeon, who was there with me from the start when I wanted to resign 3 times because we weren't going to get baseballs and bats and signing bonuses to sign players. I got Mark Shalaba, DeJohn Watson, Bob Boone. This organization is full of scouts, full of baseball people, and that's why we won the World Series. I've had 3 wedding rings and 3 World Series rings. This 3rd World Series ring means more to me And if you see my wife, you know why the third one means more to me. I'm way over my skis. I'd like to thank David Martinez. When we were 19 and 31, and I was traveling around with Mike Rizzo, and he's Italian, he's punching walls, and he wants to kill people. David Martinez was always positive. I never seen a transformation of a team. Scherzer and Strasburg were dancing merengue in the clubhouse. I mean, it turned into a Dominican Winter League team. They were playing salsa merengue. But that's what it took for that team to gel and win and win the World Series. Like I said to you guys, man, we got to stay together, man. These guys on the other side are unified, and we're not unified. Everybody that's scouted here over 25 years, I want you to stand up. Please stand up. Give these guys a big round of applause. The dedication and the sacrifice that you have to survive 25 years in this business is generally wholeheartedly. I also want to thank some of my fellow Latin American scouts that I consider brothers. Got Rolando Fernandez, Luis Ojagua, Albert Gonzalez, Orlando Esteves, Kobe Perez. I can't see very well, so I don't know who's out there. My buddy and my brother from another mother, and he knows who he is. Don't start crying, Sal. I've saved this guy money in casinos like you couldn't imagine. He had a hand one night, $2,500, and he's, Sal, he was doing his thing. He looks at me, and I'm shaking my head, and he puts it all down on a number. Guess what happened? He lost. He turned around, he looked at me, I shake my head, and we were fighting in the Jaragua Casino. We had security come. The next day I was waiting for my scout. He comes down the elevator, he's crying. I'm sorry, Johnny D. I didn't mean to be that way with you. I love you, brother. But Sal Agustinelli, my man. If you ever want to learn about scouting, come down to the Dominican and have a beer with the boys. We will tell you. Billy Owens knows. Billy Owens been there. Come down there and we'll teach you about scouting. We don't go in this, whatever these formulas they got. I don't even know how to, I don't even know what OPS is. How do you equate OPS? When I scout, I go to the field, to those tournaments we go down, we're watching 9 and 10-year-olds. What we're doing. We're watching 9 and 10-year-olds, and we're trying to figure out if they're going to be a big leaguer. My ADD kicks in when I watch this stuff. So I start having fun with Sal. We start talking about, last night, 20 years ago when we were in Barquisimeto. I can't talk about that night. But my final thing I want to say is I love every one of you guys, man. And this journey as a scout, and the media guide was this thing that they have this, they have me scouting 40 years. That would have had me started scouting when I was 16 years old. That's wrong. And they had me graduated from college. There's no way I could have graduated from college when I took basket weaving 6 times and driver's ed 3 times. But anyway, happy holidays to you all. I love you all. And let's stay together. Right? Amen. God bless you.
Tough act to follow there. I'm glad I get to work with him. JB, Gary, Billy, Johnny D, congratulations, man. Well deserved. You guys truly exemplify what's great about our profession. And like Johnny said, it's important that we stick together because it's the most well-attended event every year. It's something I tip my hat to all of you that stay around and make it a priority to get here because what Roberta does and what she represents for all of us is truly near and dear to our hearts. So thank all of you. Thank you, Roberta. Before we recognize and remember some people, I have to tell you guys a cute little scout story that this retired scout back in Alabama had a son that was in the military over in Central America. And he sent him this bird home to have, so his dad would have a friend to talk to and somebody to hang out with. Beautiful cockatoo, red, white, feathers all over. So finally the kid calls the ex-scout and says, "Dad, what do you think about the bird?" He said, "Oh, son, that was a great gesture on your part." He said, "I got to tell you, that bird was delicious. Ma and she cooked him up. It was outstanding." Said, "Oh my God, Dad, you didn't eat the bird. I didn't send the bird to you as a delicatessen. I sent it as a friend." Said, "I paid a lot of money for that bird. That bird spoke 7 languages." And the old scout said, "Well, hell, he should have said something then." Oh, boy. Real quick, too, one other thing to add, and I want to echo this as well. It's been an unbelievable year to watch and be a part of a World Series champion, but something that was behind the scenes, and it probably would stay behind the scenes, but I think in this room it would be appreciated more than anywhere. You know, we talk about character and we talk about makeup of the players. And if you're truly honest with yourself, you look back on your career and the mistakes you've made have probably been because you misjudged someone's makeup or character. Well, the ball club that Mike Rizzo assembled on their own, on the players' own, they voted to distribute portions of a share to everyone in scouting and player development with the Washington Nationals. Just tells you about the kind of character and the fun that those guys did. Let's recognize some of our past winners that are here. If you would, please stand up when I call your name. Mike Arbuckle. Gary Hughes. Grady Fuson. Damon Oppenheimer. Danny Montgomery. And Salvatore Agostinelli. And I don't know if Orrin Freeman is here. Oh, if you're here, please stand up. I know you've been going through some medical stuff, but we sent you an invite and we all love you. If you're here, we're glad you are. If I missed anybody, please stand up. I apologize for that. Thank you, guys. And one of the toughest things we have to do every year is recognize some of those in our family who have departed. And we had some guys this year who were truly huge individuals in what they did, what they contributed to our game. And after I call their names, we ask that you would join us in a moment of silence to remember them and the love we had for them and what they contributed. John Stokey, Tom T-Bone Giordano, Don Prees, Ray Blanco, and Will Brunson. If you would, let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, Miss Roberta, it's your show. I'll help you.
Hey, this wouldn't be possible without the help of many people, and we would like to thank our sponsors. First of all, we'd like to thank the Dominican Prospect League, Brian Mejia, and Ulysses Cabrera. Thank you so much for your kind donation and help with this.
Okay. We lost you. Thank you to Mr. Sean Clancy. Sean, please stand up. He is the proprietor of Foley's Beautiful bar in downtown Manhattan, and as he likes to call it, it's an Irish bar with a baseball problem, but there sure has been a lot of fun had in your business. Thank you, Sean.
And if you get a chance, please stop by the table and look at the beautiful plaques made by Matthews International. Outstanding job. Thank you, guys.
You got them?
Yeah.
Okay. From Louisville Slugger, we have Scott Paulson and Joe Steams. Scott here? Mm-mm.
And last but not least, we'd like to thank Jostens for these beautiful boxes that their beautiful rings are in. Thank you. But mostly, we'd like to thank each and every scout that has participated and helped to make this program successful. And thanks to every club for their participation also. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next year in Dallas.